Hello, my name is Carl Roberts, and thank you for taking time to learn about how we must change today's paradigms of custody and child support so that all children after divorce can better thrive in the love and support of both parents. I am the proud father of two boys, 16 and 18, where I once used to be able to put them on my shoulders. Now they put their arms around my shoulders, each standing about a half foot taller than me. I was a basketball, t-ball, and soccer coach, and like my dad who passed last year at 96, I love everything about being a father and being a good dad. I'm a veteran, a survivor, if you will, of a 10-year high conflict divorce and custody battle that was heavy with parental alienation and cost us well into six figures. None of that journey was necessary. I'm an advocate, activist, some would say agitator, and entrepreneur in this space. I spent the first several years of my journey wondering why me. I was a good guy. I was a great dad. And as you might imagine, as my role of being a father was threatened and slandered, I was emotionally devastated. If I hadn't been blessed with a great dad and a supportive family, no doubt I would not be here speaking with you today. The most destructive part of it all for me was that I could not protect my boys from the harm and parental alienation that they were suffering through. I couldn't stop their pain. I was scared to death that my relationship with my two beautiful boys would be forever severed. I knew the statistics, and I was scared to death that one of my boys would take his own life. I sometimes questioned whether or not I would make it through to the other side. As a man, family court sees me as a lesser parent. In child support reform, I'm seen as a non-custodial parent who doesn't want to pay. In my domestic violence advocacy, by default, I'm the abuser, a perpetrator, and the problem, not part of the solution. As a good man, I fought for my children and to preserve my role as their father. Today, as my father did before me, I fight for what is right. I fight to protect all children, their mothers and fathers, from experiencing the similar journey to what my family had to endure. To do that, we had to start by changing the paradigms of custody and child support. Through my study in collaboration with hundreds of other high conflict litigants, lawyers, mediators, coaches, therapists, CDFAs, judges, and magistrates, I've learned and evolved. Now, let me share with you how, as a parent or divorce professional, you can help your children or your client's children better thrive after divorce. While it may not be readily apparent in everyone, I believe there is good in all of us. I think all of us, despite our words or actions at the time, want our children to thrive and that we all want to live our lives in peace. But if we all want peace, how is it that so many of us end up in conflict? It comes down to the two paradigms of child support, pay versus provide. Whether you're a divorced professional or parent, these simple best practices will make custody and support easy and ensure that your family or your client's family enjoy the best possible outcomes. I believe these truths to be self-evident, that every parent has a responsibility, duty, and obligation to provide for and support their child. I believe that every adult has a responsibility to live within his or her means. And more importantly, I believe that every child is infinitely better off with healthy, loving relationships with both parents. But what about those fathers who just don't want anything to do with their child or will not help out financially? What about those mothers who want to live beyond their means and use child support to help do that? But most importantly of all, what about those children who get put in the middle of their parents' divorce as a prize and a pawn in a custody battle? For every divorcing couple, kids or no kids, it comes down to a simple choice: peace or conflict. Most don't realize they have or are making this choice, and sometimes the choice is made for us. But the singular difference between a good and ugly divorce, contested or uncontested custody, mediation or litigation, peace or conflict, is simply the presence of a bad actor. Bad actors can be one or both, man or woman, lawyer or litigant. And we know that bad actors are typically good people who simply get tripped up by their emotions, bad advice from a friend or a lawyer, and more often than not, mental health issues to be narcissist or borderline personality disorder. When a narcissist or borderline is involved, the harm to all, including themselves, is exponentially worse. Unfortunately, when one bad actor shows up, the other will usually respond in kind. At that point, rarely, if ever, is contested custody about the best interests of the child. Rather, it is about money, control, and or hatred. Underlying and legitimizing the negative motivations of bad actors is child support. All parents, regardless of how amicable or hostile they may be, come to the same custody crossroads. With the slightest bit of animosity, the system, our courts, and society pushes families down the pay model path of perpetual conflict and child abuse. However, when parents are more amicable, they innately figure out the provide model more easily enough every day. Child support was established in the 1970s as a welfare recovery system. What that means is our federal government wanted to reduce its financial burden of providing welfare assistance to single low-income mothers, and in its brilliance, thought it best to recover that expense from low-income fathers. The congressional intent of child support was to serve the families on or at risk of being on welfare. While it's hard to make sense of how welfare recovery benefits children or families, I'm happy to say that in October of this year, the Strengthen Families for Success Act was introduced into the U.S. Congress. If this act passes, it will basically end welfare recovery as we know it today. So you know, the two basic underlying premises of child support when it was originated were that all fathers have to be forced to support their children, and two, just as equally if repugnant, that no mother can support herself or her children without help from man or government. While these beliefs are much more muted today, their legacy lives on. The system will tell you that child support is a good thing, and that state child support guidelines are the right way to figure out what child support should be for your family. It is not. To be candid, as child support is currently constructed, in today's pay paradigm, it places a price tag on your child's head. It is a financial incentive of custody. In most states, child support is calculated based upon the number of overnights the child is with each parent. The more the child is with you, the more you get or the less you pay. While the logic behind this is understandable, it absolutely could not be more asinine, conflict-oriented, or harmful to the child. To add fuel to the conflict fire, income share models of child support include amounts to make lifestyle adjustments in the calculations. States are either A, trying to maintain the child's lifestyle post-divorce in two houses as it was pre-divorce in one house, or B, trying to balance out the lifestyles between the two houses. Or said another way, spousal support is intertwined with child support. The unintended consequence from that is that it shifts a parent's focus from the child to themselves or to the ex. It is a perpetual life of conflict because it is simply not about the child's best interest. It is a model driven by money, control, and or hatred. The provide paradigm is a beautiful thing and is used by amicable parents every day. These parents just want to be able to love on and be loved by their children without interference from the other, the courts, or the child support system. They want a future where their children can thrive in the love and support of both parents. And they want a peaceful and supportive co-parenting relationship so they can enjoy being in the same room for life's moments without making others feel uncomfortable. Reaching this outcome is so incredibly easy. So how can we help parents stay on the provide path and not get suckered into the pay paradigm? Whether they think about it or not, there are two things all parents who choose a peaceful future have in common when making their parenting agreements. First, they separate time and money, custody and child support, so they can solve both more easily. And second, they clearly distinguish between adult and child benefit of money because that is where the bulk of conflict stems from. By doing this, most willfully embrace greater financial responsibility for their children, while the inverse is true as well. Most eagerly want to provide for their children to the best of their ability, but not a single one amongst us wants to support the lifestyle of their ex through child support. Most, when they can afford to do so, will happily contribute $1,000 a month to their kids' college fund, but pay the ex $10 a month and they'll kick and scream all the way. Really, it's that incredibly simple. Keep the focus on the kids and off the ex, and parents can enjoy their happily ever afters simply in separate homes. To change paradigms, we have to improve our best practices. Best practices for parents going through divorce, and in many cases, best practices for the divorce professionals that serve them. Parents need to be clear about the choice they have, and they need to be intentional in the decisions they make that will either support a peaceful outcome or lead to conflict. And it's not just about the outcomes, it's very much about the process. What those who head down the pay or conflict path don't understand is that this is not a one and done type of thing. The conflict can last years, not decades, destroy themselves and their family, and cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Parents need to be clear that every custody battle is just plain stupid, abusive, and self centered. Throughout the process, as emotions may start to creep in, every parent should take a breath and reinforce in their own mind why they want peace. It really can be as simple as a best practice for mediators and parents to again have parents state that their focus is on the kids, not on the ex and not on themselves. That the best interest of their child is their top priority, not their own self-interest of emotional justice. Even when parents may be less than amicable, by incorporating this best practice, everyone wins. Children are spared from being put in the middle, and parents avoid the needless suffering and expense. It's simple: provide for your children and don't pay. To be clear, this may not work for all parents. This is not a one size fits all. There are far too many parents, mothers and fathers, whose character or mental dispositions will not allow it to work. However, whenever a family is able to steer clear of the pay paradigm and embrace the provide paradigm, everybody is much better off. Also, to be clear, while courts recognize the value of and want parents to reach uncontested custody agreements on their own, many still believe that paying child support is the right thing to do. More progressive or enlightened courts readily accept deviations from child support guidelines that amicable and consenting parents reach on their own. However, many others will still have parents justify why they want to deviate. Fear not, SplitSmart has all the justification you will ever need. SplitSmart is my entrepreneurial journey focused on providing all parents with the guardrails and tools they need to help keep them on the straight and narrow path to a better tomorrow. The most important decision divorcing parents can make is to separate time from money, custody from child support, to more easily solve both. Central to figuring out respectful, flexible, supportive parenting plans and schedules is our belief in writ positions soften verbal stances. What I mean by this is that when parents are less than amicable, their heightened emotions often drive unproductive verbal stances that are not child-centered. Most all of us like to think of ourselves as good people, and in that will not want our written words to betray that belief. The fear of someone else reading our words and it validating their belief that we are in this for ourselves and not the kids is simply untenable for most of us. This simple mental process, maybe some self-reflection, that most of us go through when writing down our positions helps minimize more punitive stances. By going through our line item negotiation approach, especially for less than amicable parents, where each person writes down his or her position, parents naturally develop a more child-centered agreement. While most are able to define comprehensive parenting agreements on their own, when more difficult issues are still unresolved, each parent's position is listed side by side for each item to help the mediator start off at the 50-yard line instead of the other end zone. And since we disconnect time and money, overnights from support, the primary incentive to be difficult has been removed. It really is as simple as that. I refer to our alternative dispute resolution approach to child support as low to no conflict, because by distinguishing between adult and child benefit, parents are able to avoid the vast amount of financial conflict typical in the paid child support paradigm. They go through a process of line item budgets for each child where they agree or not on the individual expenses and account for who typically pays for an expense in the normal course of life. Health insurance may come out of dad's paycheck while mom pays for education and buys all the clothes. SplitSmart then totals up the expenses in the categories: medical, education, extracurricular, and miscellaneous, and the parents decide on a percentage basis how they will share each category. Again, because this is clearly for the child's benefit and not the ex's, parents willfully embrace greater responsibility. They want to provide for their child, just not the ex. The change of paradigm is to emphasize a child-centered focus while simultaneously avoiding the vast amount of conflict typical and common in the pay model. For many parents who have the financial ability and the desire to do so, they want to provide for their children beyond just sharing expenses. They want to provide for their child's future in ways that are aligned with their individual values and beliefs. Whether it's contributing to a college fund, a child's first car, a trip, or simply allowance or spending money, Again, the emphasis is on benefiting the child, not the ex. Not only will loving parents more willfully embrace more responsibility, parents who haven't used SplitSmart have said our approach also limits the behavior of parents who might be acting out of his or her own financial interest. No doubt that everyone loses in contested custody. Far too many moms and dads simply get tripped up by their emotions or mental health issues. It is beyond time to change the paradigms of custody and child support from incentivizing conflict to normalizing peace. It's what we want. It's what our children deserve. Every parent owes peace to his or her child. For the system, it's about changing paradigms. But for parents, it's about changing mindsets and being intentional in your goals of wanting the best outcomes for your children and yourself. The path to a happier ever after, just in two separate homes, is incredibly easy to achieve with a proper mindset, controlling your emotions, and having your priorities in order. Focus on providing your children with a future where they can thrive in the love and support of both parents. Focus on providing yourself with a future where you can love on and be loved by your children without the other parent interfering or undermining. Focus on providing everyone with the benefits of a respectful, supportive, and peaceful co-parenting future. By separating custody and child support and distinguishing between adult and child benefit, reaching amicable, respectful, flexible, and supportive agreements quickly and with minimal expense is incredibly easy with SplitSmart. Thank you for taking time to learn how all parents, amicable or hostile, can leverage the Provide model to set themselves and their families up for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you, and I wish you and yours the best going forward. Please visit splitsmart.com to learn more. Thank you.